Hello, I'm Shauna Lee and wanted to tell you a little bit today about my book writing experience. So, I've gotten this question quite a bit lately, and I thought, why not put a video together for you guys so that I'm not having repeat conversations. So, I actually felt the nudge to write a book for the first time when I was 16 years old. And um, I would like to say that imposter syndrome that said, "Who the heck are you to write a book?" Stuck around for quite a few decades. So once I hit my 40s, I decided, one, life is going very quickly, and two, I should probably stop waiting for that one magical day when I had lots of time to write the story. So, wouldn't you know, I was let go from corporate America, found myself unemployed and terrified, and a whole lot of time on my hands. So I decided, okay, if not now, when? And decided that was the time I was going to start writing my first novel. So I had previously written a children's book. I have not published this book, and I probably will one day just for my son. But the story is called Luke the Litterbug, and it's a cute little kid's story that I started writing verbally to him. I was telling him the story every night when we would go to bed, and I finally put pen to paper and wrote the story. So that was my first book I wrote. Children's books are more difficult than one might think, but it was a very quick and easy way to say, I've written a book, right? So it was like one of those little baby steps that gets you a little bit more confident. Anyways, that's what it did for me. And so then when I really was ready to dive headfirst into writing a novel, I was one, not sure of how I was going to do it. I had no plan other than I just knew I needed to set aside time to write on a regular basis. So I, over the course of a year and a half, put together my first manuscript, and it is yet to be published, but it is a story called Divine Tragedy, and it really was the way I crafted my process. I figured out a couple things along the way in terms of where I write best, what sort of environment I need to be in, and also one of my first tips for anyone who says they want to write a story, regardless of fiction, nonfiction, is this is my piece of advice that I learned that I want to pass on to you, and that is you cannot edit a blank page. Write words on paper. The first draft is going to be crappy every single time. Get your crappy first draft done and just power through until it's done, because from there you get to really finesse the words and craft. You get to make it beautiful right from there, but get the crappy first draft done, and you come back and edit at a later time. So this novel was really my way to determine what, figure out what my process is, get my first crappy draft done. I've actually gone through and edited that story several times. And then what that allowed me to do was, when I heard the nudge for my first self-help book, was I knew I could write a book, and I knew what my process was, and I did it a lot faster. So the first time around was really about figuring out a lot of, making some mistakes and figuring out what my process looked like. So when I started writing my now published bestseller, which is called So You're Divorced, So What? I actually started it in January of 2020, and it's kind of a neat story. It's the way I got to a published book is a neat story. The book I wrote, it's not so neat. Actually, it's I call it the prettiest divorce book you'll ever read. It really is a beautiful book. It's filled with amazing photos. The actual book is beautiful. And I wanted it to be pretty for a reason, because it's a horrible topic. Nobody wants to talk about divorce. But it is such an empowering story of, starting again from a place of loss. And anyways, I'm very proud of it. You can pop over to Amazon to find it if you haven't had a chance to read it. But what I will tell you is that I started writing that book in January and it was published by September. I went through a hybrid publisher, and I will definitely link to Weeva below, because I had an amazing experience with the publishing of this story. So a lot of times I hear the first one is, oh, I could never write a book. And what I will say is, if you have the desire, if you have a story calling you, if you have the urge to write a book, then you can. So I heard it said once that the difference between an author and someone who wants to write a book is that one person did it. That's literally the difference. You either do it or you don't do it. So my question to you is, how much longer are you going to wait before you write your book? So that I could never write a book is a bullshit story that you're telling yourself. You absolutely can write a book, because if I can do it and I can publish it, then anyone on the planet also can. So the next thing that, objection that I hear a lot of people say is, well, what the heck do I do once I write the story? Well, first of all, you got to write the story. Then you worry about how you're going to publish it or what you're going to do. But that's where you can lean on experts to kind of guide you through. There's 3 different ways that you can publish. You can go traditional publishing, which is what most people think about, which is, the big Simon & Schuster, these big publishing houses. That traditional path brings a lot of pros and cons, and so does self-publishing. So self-publishing has really come a long way, thanks to Amazon, essentially, which means anybody can publish a book. Also, it means that anyone can publish a really horrible book. So there's no checks and balances, so to speak. So you get what you get out of it, what you put into it. And then there's hybrid. So there are smaller publishing houses who are on a much smaller basis, able to walk you through. You can a la carte piecemeal things together. So if you just want an editor, if you need help with the outside, the cover, if you need help with the actual publishing and getting it into print, there's different ways that you can just kind of piece together what you need and only pay for what you need. And that's the path I went, which was, I have this story. I don't yet know enough about self-publishing to do it myself. I didn't really have a lot of confidence in my ability to find an editor and piece all those things together myself. And I really wanted them to guide me through that first experience of publishing a book, because they have experience. So that was a great way for me to go. And it's, right in the middle. And also what I will tell you is that if you're going the traditional publishing path, depending on the genre that you are looking at, you might not even need a completed manuscript before you can sell that book idea, to a publishing house. So there's a lot of things to consider. But I would say the first thing is to get the majority of your writing done, get your process down, and understand what it will take for you to get those words on paper. And then let's see, what else did I want to tell you? I would say pay attention to the call. So that nudge, that desire that you have, is not for nothing. We have desires because that's what we're meant to have and do. So don't ignore it. If you're hearing I've got a great book idea, followed by all the nonsense that who would read what I wrote, or why is my story any different than the other books that we've seen? Here's the thing. I don't care if you are a life coach in a sea of life coaches. The way you are going to say your story in your voice will be different, and it'll resonate with your people so specifically that's why you need to write your story. That's why your book is calling you, because you're going to say it in a way that is going to be different and heard by the people who need it. So don't ignore that nudge. Your desires are meant for you. And then when it comes to writing, that's the biggest challenge, right? Most people will say, oh, I don't have time to write a book. Well, here's the thing. You do. There's a lot that goes into the planning and the ideas and brainstorming that you can literally do while you're in the car waiting to pick up your kid from school or on your commute to work. There are so many stolen moments that are so important for, and I don't know about you, but my best ideas come to me when I'm in the shower. So being able to get out of the shower and just jot down a verbal note in my phone was the way I really brainstormed and organized my thoughts before I actually sat down to do the writing. And then the second piece, and probably the most important part, is that you can do a considerable amount of writing in a very short amount of time. So if you've got 15 minutes between two meetings, write for 15 minutes. If you challenge yourself to write every single day, even if it's 15, 30 minutes at a time, you'll be surprised at how many words you get down on paper by the end of the week. So I would say write one page at a time. Goals are great, right? If you want to set, I want to write, I used to get behind in my goals and I would say, oh, I only need to write 10,000 words this week. First of all, that's a fuck ton of words and not usually realistic to do that in a week. So if you set littler goals for yourself and take those stolen moments to jot down your next bullet points for your next chapter, the outline of your entire book, brainstorming different people you want to interview, whatever the case may be, those 10, 15, 30 minutes at a time will incrementally get you a lot further than waiting for a 4-hour block of time. So I know a lot of people will go away for an entire weekend. For me, when I set aside a whole day or a whole weekend to do nothing but write, it was so much pressure that oftentimes I would do less writing when I had that gargantuan amount of time than had I just written when the moment struck or when I had 15 minutes. So I would just say, write one page at a time. Take the minutes that you have and use those instead of looking for large chunks of time. I think we all see these movies of writers where they, are sitting on this amazing Maine coastline and the ocean's coming in and they are spending all this time just writing their next, creation. And I would just say, I don't think that's very realistic for a lot of people. So if I can write a book, then so can you. And these are some of the tips on how to do that. And then the other thing that I will say is it's really important to build your arsenal of supporters, right? So when you have a published book, you need readers. And before you publish your book, you need readers. This idea of beta readers was a new concept to me. So listen, I've been in many book clubs, and I thought that getting people to read my book would be a piece of cake because I know so many readers. Your friends do not want to hurt your feelings. So a lot of them will not want to read your book because they're afraid it might not be good, and they probably are afraid of hurting your feelings. So if you're lucky enough to have some friends that are willing to read your book and give you feedback, that's amazing. But if not, that's where a writing community can be super helpful. So you can find all sorts of groups, locally and online, where, aspiring writers are always wanting to work with each other and help each other. And it's really a supportive community. So being able to find somebody who's willing to trade reading, I'll read your books. If you'll read mine, give me some feedback. Also leave reviews once your book is published. So important when it comes to, making it on a bestseller list or getting your book highly rated, you need reviews to do that. So being able to kind of pair up and group up with people who are in the same stage of writing with you is a really helpful way to do that. And I took my very first online course, which was called Pen to Published, and it really walked us through. It was a live course once a week, and every Tuesday night I spent like $850 on this course, and it was 6 or 8 weeks. I don't remember the length of time. And she really walked us through. Rachel is a literary agent who really taught us the ins and outs of everything you need to know about writing a book. It was everything from putting your pen on paper all the way to getting it published. And it was so much information. And each week she talked about something different. And I guarantee you that I was on every single call because I spent a lot of money to take that course. So I learned a good deal. But what was missing for me, so there was a Facebook group that I'm still a part of, and it was a bunch of aspiring authors, right? Which was amazing because everybody was in the same stage. So being able to kind of pair up with somebody who's writing in the same genre, get those beta readers, all of that was available to me. But what was missing for me was that accountability and being able to have somebody ask me each week, how many words did you write? Did you meet your goal? What are your challenges that you're, coming up against? Let's brainstorm where, your next chapter is going to take you. And I really needed that accountability. I think I would have finished my first book a whole lot faster had I had that. And then being able to, there were times when where I got stuck. And honestly, the ending of the novel, I don't love the ending. And I really probably is why I haven't published that one, because I don't really have the energy to go back and kind of rewrite the ending, but that's probably what needs to happen. But being able to brainstorm through that would be really helpful with someone who kind of is walking through the process with me, and being able to see where the story should go next or get some input or feed. At the end of the day, it's my story and I get to take it whatever direction I want to. Which is one thing I discovered in my process was I would sit down to write and I would be like, okay, this chapter, we're going to go this direction. And I would sit down to write and we would go, oh, and the story just kind of unfolded and went in, its own direction, which was fascinating. It really is kind of a story that is being birthed, and it knows where it's going to go, even if you don't always, which was kind of neat to uncover that. This is precisely why I offer coaching, to walk people through writing their first book, right? So it is the weekly accountability to make sure that you're getting words on paper. It is the beta reader built in. It is the feedback along the way, being able to talk through the direction of the book, being able to talk through where you're going after you write it, being able to kind of help decipher which publishing style is best for you. All of that is what you get from being able to work with someone one-on-one as you're writing your story. And I would just say that if you're being called to write your story, pay attention to that. And if you need a little loving nudge to get you over the finish line, then reach out to me. Let's discuss, and we'll get on the phone and talk through your book idea and where you want it to go and how long you think it's going to take you to write it, and I'll get you there faster. So I am all about making the complex simple and being able to really dumb down a process that doesn't need to be complicated so that you get from where you are today, which is an idea about a book that you want to write, all the way to where you want to be, which is a published author with an amazing story to tell. So I look forward to hearing from you guys. And if you wouldn't mind, let me know how, what are those reasons that pop up in the back of your mind when you say, oh, I want to write a story? What's the first thing that comes to mind that tells you why you shouldn't? And I will tell you why that's bullshit. So I can't wait to read your story, and I can't wait to hear from you.